Good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Molly Henry and I am the Executive Director here at YoungMoms.
And I'm Kristen Wiedenmuller. I am one of the volunteers with YoungMoms, and we are so excited to be joining you on Mother's Day for this great virtual brunch.
Well, this would have been our 10th anniversary in-person brunch had the pandemic not sort of adjusted our plans, but we're actually really excited to be bringing you this really fun and exciting virtual event instead. And I think you're going to have a really meaningful morning with us. We are bringing the brunch right to your kitchen table or your couch, wherever you happen to be, and we're really excited. We've got lots of longtime supporters with us and some new faces as well. I think we have people from as far away as Texas and Michigan and British Columbia and even Argentina. So
wow. Well,
welcome.
Thank you all for joining us.
Well, you're going to hear a little more from our young moms themselves as the morning goes on, but I wanted to give you just a brief overview of our organization and our mission. At YoungMoms, we inspire and equip young moms to build thriving futures for themselves and their families. And in a typical year, we serve more than 60 young women who are navigating adolescence and motherhood at the same time. And as if that's not challenging enough, these young women really face some substantial hardships. A lot of poverty, incomplete education, language barriers, isolation, unstable housing, domestic violence, just lots and lots of obstacles. But YoungMoms really comes alongside them to provide very individualized and comprehensive support so that they can create stability and begin to move forward with their goals and creating brighter futures for themselves and their children. So young women enter our program between the ages of 13 and 21, and obviously every individual is very unique with their own set of needs and challenges, but generally for every young mom, we work on three major things. First, we help them accomplish their educational and employment goals, and that could be, somebody completing their 9th grade year of high school and keeping them on track to graduate, or connecting someone to additional vocational training so they can get a better job. We also help them develop life and parenting skills, and that really captures a whole bunch of different things, from helping them understand what a toddler should eat, or connecting them to ESL classes, or facilitating prenatal and pediatric appointments. And the third major goal that we have for each of our young moms is to help them grow in their sense of self-advocacy and belonging, and to really feel a part of a community of support. And we do all these three goals through case management, very individualized one-on-one work with each young mom, through mentoring relationships. We try to match as many young moms as we can with an adult mentor. And then finally through weekly and monthly club nights and life skills trainings. And those are great opportunities to learn about important topics, but also to build relationships with peers in similar life situations and positive adult role models. Now, typically young moms stay in our program between 2 and 4 years, and this long-term investment is really what makes young moms unique and life-changing, because it really gives us time to address acute needs and create stability, and then create and move toward goals and ultimately brighter futures for each of the young moms. Now, this past year, as you can imagine, was one of tremendous challenges and growth for our organization. I think we had almost double the number of referrals each month, the past several months, than we ever have before. And we're increasingly serving a lot of young women from Guatemala. About 40% of our young moms now are from that country, and these young women really face particularly acute and complex needs, poverty, language barriers, a chronic lack of dental and medical care, very low education. Some of our young moms have never completed elementary school. And the great thing about Young Moms, though, is no matter what circumstance you're coming from and the huge challenges you're facing, we come alongside you to equip you and empower you to take control of your life and to create new skills and start to really move toward a better future.
Well, we are so excited to be able to support Young Moms however we can, and thank you all for joining us for this great event. We've got a very exciting morning for you all. As Molly mentioned, we are bringing the food sort of right to you. So we've got an exciting lineup of a number of chefs. One of the big advantages of this event now being virtual is we were able to sort of go behind the scenes into some kitchens of some very popular chefs around the area. And we even have a special guest from California who's competed on Food Network shows like Guy's Grocery Games, who will be sharing one of her famous recipes for Eggs Benedict. So we've got some great morning cocktails, some good main dishes, and of course, desserts, which we cannot miss. So we have an exciting morning, and thank you just so much for joining us and joining us for this great event.
And I want to thank our sponsors for our What's Cooking event especially. We have platinum, gold, silver, and bronze sponsors. And these are people who have really chosen to invest in our important work. And we're so grateful that you did. And of course, we're so grateful for all the donors and volunteers who invest in Young Moms throughout the year as well. Thank you so much for your support. So now we're going to take a look inside the lives of a couple of our young moms.
Cuando yo estaba embarazada, pues me dio miedo lo que no sabía nada de embarazo y yo pensaba que me voy a morir, qué voy a hacer, cómo voy a mantener mi bebé y si nadie me ayude, y yo pensaba regalar a mi bebé. En 2020 me ha pasado cuando yo estaba embarazada y no sabía cómo voy a pasar y qué voy a hacer y con quién voy a cuidar a mi bebé y si mi madre y no tengo familia.
When I found out that I was gonna have a baby, I was 18 at the time. The first thing that popped in my head was like, oh my God, my parents. They had plans for me. They wanted me to go to college. Like they had like all these plans, and at that moment I was like, yeah, those plans are not gonna happen anymore. Young Moms, they helped me through so much. I'm so thankful that they exist, you know. Without them, I honestly don't know where I will be. Even though she wasn't there with me, like in person, she would like always like message me, asking me like, hey, how are you doing? You know, I was happy because I knew I wasn't alone. I had people to support me. My case manager, Delphina, she also helped me. She brought me food. She helped me with formula because, like I said, at that time I wasn't working. My boyfriend, he wasn't working either. Delphina, like I said, she's been a big help for me.
Antes sí divertía mucho y ahora no. Ahora todo ha cambiado mucho. YoungMoms me ayudó con buscar una consejera para salir adelante y me ayudó todo para que yo pueda seguir estudiando. Me ayudó con eso y ayudó a buscar guardería Jefferson para que no dejara la escuela.
Delphina, she was the one who convinced me to apply for DACA. She told me that if I apply for DACA, I could have a better future, not only for me, but for my family. So that's the main reason why I want to do it too. Young moms, they help you just become a better person, a better mom.
Mi meta es terminar mis estudios y buscar un trabajo y buen trabajo y para dar todo lo que quiera Jefferson y para que él no le pase lo que me ha pasado y quiero hacer lo mejor para él.
Well, thank you so much to our volunteer, Julianne Thomas, for creating that video. I hope you get a little sense of what it's like for some of our young moms and some of the work that we're doing to really transform the lives of young women like Astrid and Dulce.
And now we are going to be trading in our coffee for a fun morning cocktail. Bo, a bartender from Savannah Bistro, is going to be walking us through the steps on how to make an updated Aperol Spritz.
Hey everyone, my name is Bo Fournier. I am a bartender at Savannah Bistro. I have been working there coming up on 11 years. Fantastic restaurant to work at. Savannah is going to be open for its 22nd year. As most of you know, we've been closed for the past 17 months. We are opening very soon, we promise, right around the corner, and we are very excited to see everyone. And working with Young Moms, it's a privilege. We know they're a great organization in the community, and we're just very happy to be able to work with them. So, moving into our brunch cocktail. Brunch cocktails, when you think of a Bloody Mary, mimosa. We're gonna do something a little more fun, a little more interesting today. We're gonna do a play on an Aperol Spritz. We're gonna be doing a strawberry Aperol Spritz. And also moving into the spring and summer, this is gonna be a great seasonal cocktail. Easy drinking, great for brunch. So the ingredients that we have today, obviously strawberries, a little bit of fresh lemon, Aperol, which is a floral Italian liqueur, little hints of rhubarb and grapefruit, and then Prosecco, and we're gonna garnish it with a little bit of rosemary. So first off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna muddle 3 strawberries. Start with that. Like I said, this is a really fun, it's an easy cocktail, and I made a couple of them last night. They are delicious. So 3 strawberries, you want to give it a quick muddle, nothing too crazy, you just want to release the flavors. To start off, we're going to do 1.5 ounces of Aperol. Again, Aperol is kind of making a little comeback in the last couple of years. It's well known for a Negroni, and now the Aperol Spritz is kind of hot these days too. And we're going to do the juice of half a lemon. And this just cuts through some of the sweetness, adds a little bit of acidity. Big scoop of ice. I'm gonna give it a good shake. A lot of times people don't have a shaker at home. You can use a mason jar. You can just put it in a glass and stir it, but it's great to have a shaker. So give it about a 5-second shake. I'm going to wine glass. Then you just want to top it with about, say 2 to 3 ounces of the Prosecco. And then, just for aesthetics, a nice lemon garnish, and then a sprig of rosemary. Kind of really makes it look nice too. And there you have it, the strawberry Aperol Spritz.
All right, that may be my favorite session of the day.
Well, thank you so much, Bo. We appreciate it. We definitely learned something new. And now we want to introduce you to Krista Ledke. She is a 2-time grand champion on Guy's Grocery Games on Food Network. She's also an award-winning chef with a few restaurants out in California. And she happens to be the daughter-in-law of one of our longtime board members and best advocates, Joan Holiday. So enjoy this segment, and she's cooking up something especially delicious.
Good morning and welcome everybody. My name is Chef Krista Lidke and I'm coming at you from Guerneville, California, which is in West Sonoma County, just about 20 minutes from the ocean, surrounded by beautiful redwoods and vineyards. Couldn't be a more magical place, so I hope that you join me out here. But for right now, we're going to talk about an amazing organization that I'm honored to be working with today, YoungMoms. The work that they do is just unbelievably inspiring and empowering. And I have to say, as someone who grew up with a single mom who raised 4 children, virtually on her own for much of that time, I just think that the work that they're doing is incredibly helpful, really inspiring to me, and so I'm grateful to be a part of this today. So let's talk about eggs. It's brunch time, right? What's the first thing that you think of for brunch? For me, it's Eggs Benedict, but I don't eat a lot of meat, or I try to eat less meat. And I know that you guys are out there in Mushroom County in Kennett, and so I wanted to do a little spin on Eggs Benedict today. So we're gonna do an Eggs Benedict with some wilted spinach, sauteed mushrooms, and we're gonna do it over polenta. So we're gonna kind of play through a bunch of variations so that you guys can learn some new things today, maybe try some new things at home that you wouldn't have otherwise, and I hope it's gonna be fun. So let's talk about our ingredients today. So we have some polenta, of course, store-bought. We're gonna talk about different ways that you can do it from scratch, from dry. We've got eggs. You're gonna need a lot of eggs. You're gonna need a lot of butter. I've got some spinach. I've got some mushrooms. These are really interesting here. There's several types of mushrooms. These are alba and brown clamshell, otherwise known as han shimeji. And these are velvet piopino, really foresty and really fun. So these are local mushrooms here that are grown by Far West Fungi, just a few miles down the road. We've got some lemons and some chopped garlic. And then let's go over to this side. We'll take a look at what we've got over here. So we're gonna go step by step through the process today. And what I think is one thing that's really important for me is when I love to entertain, I don't love it when I'm stuck behind the stove all the time. So I'm gonna show you how you can get things done in advance of your guests showing up for brunch. So whether you're having 2 people or 6 people or 10 people, we can do a lot of things in advance and really make it look like this was an easy, flawless meal. And we're gonna try to make some shortcuts, some little pro chef tips that will help you make things easier for yourself. So don't be intimidated. There's a lot of easy ways that we can cut some corners here. So we're gonna start first with poaching some eggs. So we're gonna get our water going on high. So any acid will do. White vinegar tends to be the best, but I like the flavor that's imparted by sherry vinegar. So we're gonna get our water going and use about 2 tablespoons of sherry vinegar. Notice my precise measuring technique. And then also a little bit of kosher salt. So sort of just a generous pinch there. And we'll get the water going to a boil. While that's boiling, I'm gonna grab my eggs. And what you wanna do is you wanna put them in a little ramekin or a little, cup. And that's helpful because that way you can kind of drop them all in instead of trying to crack them. If you accidentally crack the egg, you don't want it making your water all icky. That's a technical term. So a few things to note here with the boiling water is you want to get it to a boil, but you don't want it a real strong, rigorous boil because you don't want to really disrupt the eggs. So we're just going to get this so it's a nice sort of soft boil. We've got our eggs ready to go here. Now, depending on the size of your pan, will determine how many eggs you want to put in the bath, and also your confidence level, how many eggs you want to put in the poach at one time. We're gonna go with 3, just based on the size of the pan. We could probably throw a 4th one in there too, but we don't want to get cocky. It's too early. So while that's happening, I'm gonna just start getting a pan ready for our polenta, because what we're gonna do is get a real nice sear on both sides of the polenta. And what you want to do is you want to get your pan hot first before you add your oil. And the reason you do that is you don't want to overcook or smoke your oil. I also like to use an oil that has a higher smoke temp, but is really clean flavor. So for today, we're going to use a little bit of peanut oil. And so we'll wait till this pan gets warm, and then we'll add some peanut oil. We're almost there on the boiling. Make sure you've got your slotted spoon nearby. One other pro tip is people always get intimidated by making poached eggs. You can make poached eggs the day before. And what you're gonna do is store them in a cold ice bath, cold water bath. So I've already got 3 that I started just ahead of time, and that way we can cook 3 more and we'll be ready to go for our brunch. Now, if you're worried about doing too many things at the same time, you can go step by step, one thing. I'm just gonna try to expedite the process here this morning, because we're all hungry, right? So if you take a look, we're starting to boil here, and this is sort of a nice amount. We'll get it to where it's a little bit more of a rolling boil, and then I back off the temperature. Now remember, when you're putting eggs in, they're going in cold. So they're gonna take the temperature of your water down. Alright, kind of wanna quickly get these all in there together. And now you can see our eggs are all hanging out nicely in there. And now we're gonna get our polenta going until our oil is nice and hot. Now on the store-bought polenta, there is a fair amount of water, so you are gonna get some activity and some splashing out. So just be mindful. Try not to use the fan for noise today, but definitely turn on your fan on this one. One variation on polenta that I think is really nice is actually making polenta from scratch. So using a dry polenta with some water and cream, I like to do sort of a soft and creamy polenta. So it would be a 3 parts water, 1 part cream. And most of the polenta packages you'll buy will have a nice recipe on the back. You can also rehydrate the store-bought polenta in the tube. So putting it more in a saucepan and then adding some cream to that. The thing with the poached eggs is you don't want to over-poach them. So just when you see everything sort of come together, and it's maybe been about 3 minutes or so, because we're going to put them back in water later. So we want to make sure that they've all tightened up, all the proteins have come together, but we don't want to overcook our yolks. All right, so now we want to get our slotted spoon and start fishing these little guys out. Gently just immerse them into a nice ice water bath here. Now as you can see, they're just hanging out here in the ice cold. Now you want to hold on to that water because we're going to use it a little bit later just to reheat them right before we're plating the dish. How's everybody doing so far? Big question is, do you have a mimosa or a Bloody Mary? And if you don't, now's your chance to quick grab one while we're waiting for these polenta cakes to get a little crispy, and we'll get the mushrooms going for you. Should maybe take the time to introduce you to my sous chef. This is Mr. Logan. He is a rescue beagle from Beagle Freedom. And no matter what I'm doing in the kitchen, he is by my side. All right, so for the mushrooms, I like to use a cast iron, get it nice and hot. And I use a little bit of a mix of butter and oil. The nice thing about the polenta is you can't really screw it up. Whether you saute it, whether you fry it, whether you rehydrate it in a saucepan with some liquid, it's delicious. It's also gluten-free, which I love. I also just think it's a nice variation on something that you wouldn't typically see with Eggs Benedict. So I think it's sort of a fun and playful way to make a little change. And again, the reason I'm doing a lot of these techniques up front is because you can prepare most of these things before your guests even arrive. We're going to get these nice and crispy and a little bit brown, and then we'll let them hang out on a cookie sheet. Then we can toss them in the oven or put them just in a low oven so that they're just nice and perfect and warm and ready to go. Same thing with the eggs. Do them in advance. Keep your poaching water. We'll just get it warm again, and we're going to drop those in the bath later, right at the time we're plating. So now it's just sort of building all the individual components so that we can have a flawless brunch when our friends show up. All right, so over here I've got my mushrooms going in the saute pan. Nice cast iron, get it good and hot. Kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but once we're halfway there, I'm going to just put in a little bit of fresh garlic. Again, totally optional. I just love how it all comes together and just kind of gives it another punch and a little bit of spice. All right, so our cakes are looking pretty good. So if you want to take a look at those right there. Now you can go darker if you want, but really they just got a nice crisp on the edge, and then we're going to toss them in the oven, and then they'll finish in there. Oh man, you could be in this kitchen right now smelling these mushrooms and this garlic. We're going to now just sort of turn these down and let them do what I call carryover cook, meaning we're leaving them in the hot pan to just sort of do what they do, and we'll let that hang out there. Meantime, we're going to get going on our hollandaise sauce, and we're going to go with a couple of different variations on what you can do. I know people get really intimidated. Honestly, right now on camera, I'm a little bit nervous, but we're going to do it together. So, what we're going to do is bring our eggs and our lemons. I'm going to get my bowl off here just before it gets too hot. Go with a little bit of lemon juice in the bowl. And meanwhile, I've got water getting started, so if you've got a double boiler, that would be a really great choice. If not, just boiling some water. We want to save our egg whites here. So what we want is the yolks. So we're going to get rid of all those whites. And we're going to go with 3 eggs, or 3 egg yolks rather. So just have a little bit of lemon juice, some egg yolks, and just a pinch of salt. We're going to just whisk that up really good. So now you've got that nicely whisked in the bowl. Try to get it as whipped and creamy as you can. What do you think, Logan? You there? And now over, not quite boiling, but maybe simmering, we're going to start to add our warm butter. Now I did the sort of chef version and I did clarify my butter. You can look online how to do that, but it's not necessary. So you can just use warm melted butter. All right, now the goal here is you don't want to be too hot because what will happen? You'll make scrambled eggs. So what we want to do is just start slowly adding in our warm butter to this mixture as it's over a nice double boiler. Now one sort of way that you can do what I'll say like a kitchen hack is you can make this in a blender. So you do the same thing, you put your egg yolks, your lemon, and a little bit of salt in the blender. And then you would take your warm butter, so you get those in the blender, turn your blender on, let it go, turn the blender on its lowest setting, and start just streaming in your warm butter. And then you've got what we call blender hollandaise. So now we're just looking for this consistency to thicken up, sort of tighten up a bit, almost like, feel like it's almost double in volume. So we got a little ways to go. But it can happen fast. If you mess this thing up, you might tighten this up a little too much. Don't freak out, don't panic, it's okay. And so what you would do then is just add a little, maybe like a teaspoon or a tablespoon of warm water just to sort of loosen it up again. Now the one thing when you get close to done is that's your time to test where you're at with your salt and your acid. So again, where you're at with, ooh, we're boiling now, turn her down. The amount of lemon that you put in, as well as the amount of salt, and so then you can make your adjustments. So now once you get it to where it's this nice consistency, I don't know if you can see that's thickened up real nice, we're gonna set it aside, and you wanna set it aside in a warm area. That way it still just stays nice and loose. That way it's ready to go. You wanna use it within about an hour, but you can let it hang out sort of on the stove where other things are warm. I like to take another stainless steel bowl and some nice beautiful fresh spinach. If you don't like spinach, you can skip this step, but just put that bowl right over the warm. Now we're gonna drizzle some really nice olive oil, a little bit of salt, and some fresh squeezed lemon. And why I like to do this is I feel like you guys have ever bought a big package of spinach and you look to saute it, like the packaged spinach this big becomes like this much spinach. We're gonna do something similar, but we're not gonna kill it. We're just gonna sort of let it wilt. So that bowl's gonna get warm on the bottom. It's gonna sort of wilt it up nicely, but you're not gonna have all that water mess and lose all your spinach, but it'll soften it just enough that it's texturally where you want it for this dish. You can see sort of it's starting to get nice and wilty, and obviously our volume has been cut in half, but it's not just a gross, wet, soggy mess of spinach. So now we're just gonna kill the water, let those hang out. And what I'm gonna do is actually mix my spinach and my mushrooms together. In fact, here's what we'll do. Because we're getting crazy today. It's Young Moms, and we're gonna go nuts. We're gonna go ahead and just set the spinach right on top of these warm mushrooms and let them all just sort of hang out in this hot pan. So I think we're at that part in the story where we actually get to plate up some food. So what we need to remember is that our eggs are still hanging out in like their ice cold bath. So we are going to give them a hot tub. So drain off some of this water here. Now remember, we're just taking the chill off of them. They're already cooked, so we don't want to let them hang out in there too long because we don't want to overcook our poached eggs. We're going to put these babies in a little warm bath. Maybe use a slotted spoon if your guests are watching, but I'm going all in with my hands. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our nice toasty polenta cakes here out of the oven. Well, maybe I'll have one for me. And now we're gonna put this nice little warm salad of mushrooms and spinach right on top here. I can see my camera crew getting really excited that they get to eat this here in just 1 minute. My sous chef standing by, he's ready to go. All right. So now remember, with poached eggs, I like to sort of have a spoon nearby or a towel nearby to sort of dampen it, so that we get a little bit of that water off of it. But you can see it's like a nice, perfect egg right there. Every good chef has to have some finishing salt on hand because those eggs really didn't get any salt in them. So I like to use a nice little Maldon crunchy sea salt here. That's right. And then we've got our beautiful Hollandaise liquid gold on top. Now for me, everything is also about eating with your eyes first, right? So you want the dish to be nice and beautiful. So I always love to add some garnish, but also some garnish that adds some nice flavor. So this is just a little bit of fennel fronds from some fennel that was in our garden. And it's very similar to dill, adds like a little bit of a an anise or a sort of licoricey flavor. And there you have it. So a little bit of my play on Eggs Benedict. Polenta, crispy or creamy, however you like it. A little bit of sauteed mushrooms, again, whatever mushrooms you like. Some wilted spinach, beautifully poached eggs, and a hollandaise. Blender or traditional, either will work. And now you've got a fantastic sort of main dish that you can feature at your brunch for all your friends. So I hope you enjoyed, and look forward to you trying out my recipe and letting us know what variations and what plays on it that you did and what you liked. Take care, and thanks again for having me. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Krista, for that delicious looking recipe. I never knew that you can make hollandaise sauce in a blender.
I know, I can't wait to try it at home. Well, now we want you to hear directly from some young moms themselves about how our organization has been able to help them this past year.
Hola, mi nombre es Nilsa Amabayachum. Gracias a ellos que me ayudaron con la planificación familiar, y gracias a Delfina que me ayudó a elegir el seguro médico y por las clases de inglés.
Yo le estoy agradecida a YoungMoms por haberme asesorado durante estos tiempos de pandemia. Me dio la información correcta de cómo cuidarme, de cómo usar un tapabocas. Me ayudaron también con asesorías para no sentirme triste, estresada en estos tiempos. Para mí era muy difícil porque no sabía cómo meter a mis niños a la escuela, no sabía cómo utilizar un Zoom. A ellas les debo todo porque me ayudaron, me orientaron a no caerme, sino a salir adelante con mis niños. También gracias YoungMoms por la información de cómo cuidar nuestra salud. Nos enseñaron a darles comidas saludables, comida con vegetales, cosas puras naturales que les dan hierro, vitamina. Gracias a YoungMoms fue que aprendí todo eso.
Hi, my name is Carmen, and YoungMoms has helped me accomplish plenty of my goals that I feel like I wouldn't be able to accomplish by myself.
Yo le quiero dar gracias a YoungMoms. Me han ayudado mucho a usar la tarjeta del WIC. Me han traído en mis citas. Y muchas gracias, y me han ayudado demasiado.
Hola, yo me llamo Astrid. Me ayudaron mucho con escribir en daycare a mi bebé y en la escuela y muchas cosas más.
Hi, my name is Natalia. I have been in YoungMoms for a couple months. YoungMoms has helped me become more prepared for the arrival of my baby. YoungMoms has had an impact in my life. It has helped me to be more organized and keep track of my life.
Yo me llamo Rebeca. Me gusta mucho participar con ellos porque ellos nos ayudan, nos apoyan de todo y nos dan, si nosotros necesitamos algo, ellos están ahí por nosotros. Y pues para mí como son mis familias, y tengo mucha confianza en ustedes. Gracias por apoyarme de muchas cosas.
YoungMom has impacted me by improving my goals that I had set, and also to become a better mom for my daughter.
A María también me ha ayudado todo con Teraite y de todo.
Muchas gracias por hacer sus esfuerzos para venir a entregar los pañales en medio de pandemia. Me regalaron pañales, wipers, leche para mi nena. Pues ustedes se arriesgaron para poder cumplir con su trabajo. nos quedamos sin trabajo y pues la verdad sin ayuda de ustedes no sé cómo hubiera llegado todo lo que me dijeron para tener una buena alimentación, y eso me ha ayudado mucho, cómo salir de todo el estrés y todas las cosas, cómo hacer un poquito de ejercicio, y sí, la verdad funciona.
Hello, my name is Linda, and I want to say thank you to YoungMoms for helping me become a citizen, get my high school diploma, get my license. Oh my God, for everything. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the things you do for me, and thank you.
Well, thank you so much to all of those young moms who acted as our film crew for that segment. I know it's not easy to put yourself in front of the camera, and I wish we had time to hear from all 47 of the young moms that we're serving right now, but I think Zoom would eventually kick us off.
At some point, yes. Young Moms, as you can see, is such an impactful organization, and they rely entirely on financial and volunteer support from people like you. We so appreciate you buying a ticket and joining us for this morning's event, and hopefully you have bid on one or two of our fantastic auction items. But we would also encourage you to think about any longer term, even monthly donations, or taking advantage of some of our volunteer opportunities. The impact truly is life-changing, and we so appreciate the support you've given so far.
Well, one of my favorite parts of any gathering is a cheese board, and we have one of the best experts around who's going to walk us through how to assemble an absolutely delicious cheese board for us. Amy Alexi, a local favorite from Tallulah's Table and Tallulah's Garden and The Love in Philadelphia, a really renowned chef. She's gonna give us all the tips and tricks for how to put together a stunning presentation that your guests are gonna love.
Well, hello, I'm Amy Alexi. I'm the owner of Tallulah's Table in historic Kennett Square. I'm very excited and proud to share this presentation today, especially on behalf of Young Moms. I'm very excited to be associated and to show the presentation of this very cool cheese board that we're going to build today. So the cheeses that I select, I try to pick cheeses that eat well together, and they each have a little story. So I'll give you an example of a really cool collection to build a cheese course of 5 different cheeses will be one of the big factors of this board. We'll begin with a fresh goat cheese from Vermont Creamery. This particular one has been rolled in lots of fresh herbs, and for me it really sets the pace on the board because it shows such great color and style, and in and of itself brings its own beauty to the board. The second cheese in the order of the cheeses is a goat's milk Gouda. This is a Dutch cheese. It's often done with sheep's milk or cow's milk, but a goat's milk Gouda is a very kind of sweet and mild and has a delicious taste almost of almonds. So this will showcase a firm goat cheese in relationship to the soft goat cheese to begin. Then we get into another delicious and just incredibly popular cheese that has an incredibly creamy milk. This is a sheep's milk cheese, which is a manchego. This particular one is a rosemary manchego. Then you'll see that I love to get into a nice creamy cheese. And often this is the piece de resistance of a cheese board, you know, the luscious creamy brie or the rich cheese. So in this case, a couple ideas that I would have for you is using something that you might see in a cheese shop like a triple creme or a double creme brie that really showcases the beautiful cow's milk. It's kind of oozy. People are generally familiar with a lovely brie. This particular one is called Excellence, and it's a luscious, luscious triple creme and almost eats like, you know, butter and delicious. Another really fantastic brie-style cheese when you see in our cheese shop and other cheese shops is your individual bries, you know, that really themselves become the centerpiece of a cheese board. So I wanted to give you 2 options when you're utilizing your rich cheese portion an individual brie, or again, a camembert style that's a triple creme or a buttery brie of that nature. Then on my cheese board, I love to include a cool handmade blue. In this case today, I picked an incredible American cheese that's produced in Wisconsin, and it's called Moody Blue. You'll see the rind of the cheese has a darker tone, and that's because this whole wheel of cheese was smoked. Whenever I'm building a cheese board, I usually think about how many guests are attending and how many people are eating it and what else I'm serving. I love if cheese is the center of the show, so I generally kind of go big on the cheeses. If you're looking to purchase cheeses, approximately 1/4 pound to 1/3 of a pound is a good amount of cheese for a guest to eat for an hors d'oeuvre party or perhaps a wine and cheese or a cocktail party. So ultimately, for a group of 8, we may lay out approximately 3 pounds of cheese, but we will want each cheese portion to be approximately 1/3 of a pound. So this size would be a nice ample portion that would serve a group of approximately 8. And that might be a good baseline if you're looking to serve 4 or serve 10. When you're prepping the cheeses, I like to set the precedent for the guests and kind of suggest to them that the cheese board is alive and we want you to begin eating it. So I often will begin slicing the cheese and kind of allowing it to crumble and present. The harder cheeses, like the aged goat's milk Gouda, I do like to fabricate into smaller pieces. I'll trim all of the rinds off the cheeses. I want to make sure that the guests are only having edible things on the cheese board. So it really is, all set up for them to be ready. In the case of that great sheep's milk manchego that I talked about, the rosemary manchego, that's an herb rind. So I'm going to leave that rind on. That's edible. So when I slice this cheese, I will utilize the method of just slicing a little tip of the rind. Wheels cut really beautifully. If you are someone that loves geometry, you can just cut it perfectly in nice little wedges. And then you see these beautiful wedges. I'll begin to slice them so that the same premise exists. I kind of get people started on their board. And then we'll do the Moody Blue. So what I'll do with the blue is create some larger chunks, because blue cheeses, and don't be afraid of this, they crumble. That's the beauty of them. And the crumbles are what makes this cheese look really approachable. So this cheese board is set with my cheeses now. And what's great about preparing them, it's allowing the cheeses to temper. Cheese is not something that you want to eat ice cold by any means. So let it be out of your refrigerator. When I started planning making this cheese board, I pulled my cheeses out about an hour in advance. Then, whenever they're sliced, they even temper further. By the time the guests come, maybe a half an hour after you've presented your cheese board, these will be at a perfect temperature. The other little condiments that I'll work on to make the whole cheese presentation engaging will be some various jams and honeys and textures and crunchy fruit. I love fresh grapes. You never tire of them. It hydrates you while you're eating different cheeses. And actually the grapes allow you to cleanse your palate and taste different cheeses better each time when you have some grapes in between. Sweet dried fruits are particularly nice with blue cheese, so we added a little dried cranberry. We will sprinkle nuts here, particularly with the manchego, because the manchego is great with almonds. It's just a nice crunch with that. I'll put the honey in a smaller vessel, and I'll just keep the portion small because that will suggest to people that it's not something you want to slather on, it's just something you want to have a little taste. I tend to do my apples and pears and things like that last because it's really nice when they are on the board looking nice and bright and juicy. So I'll kind of work the fruit into the cheese a little bit. So I'm saying to the guests, hey, pair these things together. There's no rule, but, enjoy them together. Then fresh greenery. This really lifts up the cheese board. I put some greens kind of around very naturally on the cheese board, but I tuck them away and I kind of hide them under things. So it really lifts up the cheeses and it just provides a little bit of texture and height. When I'm selecting crackers, I love things with whole wheat. They feel very natural and earthy with cheeses, and cheeses have a natural earthiness. I also like crackers that are very plain. This is an olive oil cracker that is very simple, and it eats just like a very light biscuit. The other favorite cracker that people love are, seeded and fruit crackers, and they work really nicely too. So I tend to localize the crackers with the cheeses they belong to. So for example, bries and creamy cheeses work better with a little bread and crackers. So I'll kind of put some bread a little more in this area, and I'll populate a little less bread in the firm cheese area, and then back again with the goat cheese, a little more cracker. If the cheese is already scented, I'll use a more mild cracker. If the cheese is very mild and creamy, that is where a nice fruit cracker, a seeded cracker works. What I like to do is kind of freeform, tuck things, and again, lift things up a little bit, be a little artistic about it. I hope when I look at my cheese boards, they're gone in an hour and everything disappeared. I like for every little bite to be gone, and I enjoy bringing this all together on behalf of Young Moms. Please, we'd love to see you in Tallulah's Table. We have all of these cheeses and so many more. Just tell us your crowd and your event. It can be small or big like this. It'll be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, Amy, for all those helpful tips and tricks. As you can see, we were quite inspired. If you are craving cheese, you should check out our silent auction. We have some cool packages from places like Doe Run Farm, and we even have a handful of our Tallulah's Table exclusive brunch bags still available if you'd like to purchase one of those as well.
And we have even more food. So Scott from Verbena is going to walk us through his recipe for seared scallops, and they look delicious.
Hi, I'm Scott of Verbena in Kennett Square. We like to focus on fine dining, fine service, using high-end ingredients that's cooked in season. All right, so today I'm going to prepare Bristol-based scallops. We're gonna sear them. We're gonna do kind of a hot and cold dish that will be seasonally appropriate come summer. So what I've done is I brought out some Bristol-based scallops. Scallops should always be packed dry. Higher quality scallops that are dry packed are not going to be pumped full of saline. So this is called a foot, the adductor muscle. So we just pull that off. It comes off, it has a little bit of the sinew and connective tissue to it. We have some shaved fennel, carrot orange. These orange are, they're very balanced when it comes to sweet and acid. They're a little bit in between like a ruby grapefruit and a blood orange. Okay, so one way to tell whether or not your pans are hot is do water. Water is easy. Not hot. Not really hot. So the water evaporates almost immediately. From a cooking standpoint, that pan is too hot. You don't want to use the water, because there's another method where you just drag your spoon along. There should be no resistance, and the hotter the pan gets, there's going to be more resistance. So that's no resistance, some resistance, and then actual resistance. So you always want to add oil to a hot pan. It's amazing what you can do with a hot pan. Okay, you don't want to start off your pan with something that's cold and then try to bring everything up. It takes a tremendous amount of energy. It's very inefficient to cook them. You want your food to start cooking immediately. All right, so we have said scallops. All right, what we're gonna do, season up. Okay, up. So you have a nice even seasoning. Turn them all over. To judge when to put the scallops in, you should see wisps of smoke. All right, so you're gonna add. Now leave your heat on. Okay. Don't be afraid to move your scallops around in the pan. Now once you get nice dry sear, you start to baste it. Just follow. Hold off. Hold off the heat, let it rest. Now you got sponge, okay? So now we're gonna take tool. Just let them rest. I'm gonna take some curry vinaigrette that's made with yogurt. Alright, so we have a white background. We have some purple. We'll do a little nest here. We'll do one there. Do one here. I find it to be very balanced, enabling to where you have something that's going to be very fresh.
Thank you so much, Scott, for those delicious looking scallops. Can't wait to try that. I suspect mine won't turn out quite as well, but we'll give it a whirl. As Kristen mentioned earlier, you know, volunteers are really essential to our organization. They exponentially expand our impact and our ability to serve our young moms, and we have some of the best volunteers around, so thank you to all of our volunteers. We especially have wonderful mentors who come alongside a young mom and invest in her long term and really help her with encouragement and guidance and practical support. So take a look at this video and hear a little bit from our mentors and mentees.
I don't really have a family that I can talk to, but I feel like these guys are my family. And how does it feel? It feels really, really great because I can talk to them, and when something's wrong, I can call them.
Appreciate her like being involved and like with Anthony and like making sure that I'm like okay and like I have everything like under control and in check. I had like her like being experienced already and like being like an experienced mom is like really helpful because I'm learning it as I go, but like having her with me, I get to hear her opinions on things and it's really helpful because like I kind of take them and like it's been helpful.
I'm most proud of Sierra being a single mom. I can't understand how hard that would be, and not having a lot of support from family. I wouldn't have been able to parent as well as I am now without my family, and so that's what I hope to do with Sierra and Aaron.
Sí, realmente ser mentor a mí me ha aportado mucho. Es una relación entre dos. Yo sé que Claudia ha aprendido cosas de mí y yo he aprendido también muchísimas cosas de Claudia. Me hace muy feliz sentir que puedo ayudar, poder dar. Ese es el mejor sentimiento. Y de la misma forma que doy, soy un ejemplo para mis hijas. Soy ejemplo de inspirarlas a ella también a querer ayudar a otras personas. Entonces me parece que es algo lindo que estamos haciendo por la comunidad.
I just think the self-satisfaction you will get, it will bring so much into your life. And for me to go from taking care of my 88-year-old father to getting to spend time, look at him, spend time with his beautiful baby and Stephanie, and brings so much joy into my life.
Muchas gracias por ayudarme por todos y por ayudarme con las tareas, con llevarme al doctor y por preguntarme cómo estoy, cómo está Gabe, cómo está mi familia.
Claudia, lo hicimos muy bien.
Thank you again to all of our mentors. We would not be able to run Young Moms without you. And if you are interested in this two-way beneficial relationship, please reach out, especially if you can speak Spanish. That's a huge need we have.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I am craving something sweet. So I think we're going to head on over to Oh So Sweet Bakery in Chadds Ford. And the chef owner, Tess Wofford, is going to walk us through a delicious brown butter coffee cake.
Hi, my name is Tess, and I'm the owner and baker here at Oh So Sweet Bakery Cafe in Chadds Ford. I'm really excited to be here today supporting Young Moms, a fantastic organization here in my community. And I'm very excited today to be making some coffee cake. Coffee cake is one of my favorite things because any excuse to drink coffee and eat cake at the same time early in the morning is a big plus in my book. Coffee cake is one of my favorite things because there's so many different ways to do it, but my personal favorite is making a brown butter spiced coffee cake, which is what we're going to be doing today. So I'm just going to set up my pan here with a little bit of butter, and then while it's browning, I'm just going to make sure that I have everything else in place. Browning butter is super fantastic. The way that I taught to do it was to put butter in a pan, put it on like a medium heat, and then completely forget about it. And the moment you walk back, it's done. So I very much like browning butter because it adds a super nice nutty flavor while just being this beautiful brown color with little specks in it. And it's very easy because you just forget about it and then it's done. So after I have my brown butter, I'm going to add it to a combination of sugar and flour and a little bit of my homemade spice mix. I really like a bunch of different spices, and we put it into something we call Oso spice. It's cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves and all sorts of good things, but you can use whatever you like. If you really like cardamom or ginger or anything like that, you can add it to your coffee cake. Or pumpkin pie spice is really nice to use. And then once you reach this nice amber color with little brown flecks in the bottom of your pan, you're just going to go ahead and add that to your flour, sugar, and spices. Ooh, and a dash of salt. You should always add a dash of salt. And then I'm going to mix that together, and it'll start to clump and form a little floury mixture. And once it's in all these nice little pea-sized pieces, I'm going to stick that in the freezer so it has time to cool down while I work on the coffee cake center. Alright, now to start the base of the coffee cake, I'm just going to start with a little bit of room temperature butter. It's really important that your butter is room temperature so that it is soft and it mixes with the sugar really well and you get a nice creamy batter. So just a little bit of soft butter and some sugar. We'll go ahead and start mixing that up. Always make sure to scrape down your bowl so you have nice, even, clean texture to your coffee cake. The funny thing about coffee cake is that it doesn't taste like coffee, there's no coffee in it. They only named it that because it is cake purely to be eaten with coffee, which is fine by me because coffee is the best part of my day. And I'm just adding an egg. And then I'm going to slowly pour in milk and vanilla. And now that that's all come together, I'm going to add my dry ingredients. It is flour and salt, baking powder, and baking soda. And once that's all come together, I'm going to scrape the sides once more. And then one of my secret ingredients for a really nice, light, zingy coffee cake is sour cream. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that very last and mix that in there as well. And now that that is all set, I'm going to prepare my pan. I just have this cute little disposable loaf pan. It's really great if you want to take it somewhere with you, or it's really nice to give as gifts, but it's really easy to cut through, and I'm a big fan. But I still spray it with a little bit of spraying oil just to make sure it comes out. Then you'll just want to add half of your batter to the bottom of your loaf pan. Use your spatula. spread it out nice and even. And then in this container, I just have some flour and sugar and more of the spice mixture that I added to the initial brown butter mixture. I'm just going to sprinkle that in the center here, which gives coffee cake that really nice swirl that you normally see in a classic coffee cake. And I'll go ahead and add the second half of my batter. Make sure that's also very nice and even. And then I'll go ahead and pull our brown butter mixture out of the freezer. Now it's at this really nice consistency that's great to just crumble on top. And this is probably one of the best parts, so you can go as heavy as you like. And you can go ahead and pop that into your oven at 325 for about 25 to 30 minutes. And you have your coffee cake.
Like every single recipe we've seen today, I am so excited to dig in and try this one, and we hope you all enjoyed these as much as we did. Don't forget you can find the recipes in your event program, and please let us know how you like them if you try them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you again to our event sponsors. We so appreciate your generous support. Thank you to all of our year-round donors, our wonderful volunteers, our amazing staff, Courtney, Anna, Daisy, Delphina, Saria, and Maria. We definitely couldn't do any of what we do without you. And also to our fantastic board of directors. Just a couple reminders, the silent auction is still open. It'll be open until 8 p.m. tonight, so you'll want to check that out and bid on some really fun items on there. You can also purchase raffle tickets as well for a wine basket, a lottery package, or a dining package as well. Wow. And then of course we would really appreciate your donations. You know, your financial investment in this work equips us to serve more and more young moms and really create intergenerational impact in the lives of these young women. So thanks so much for attending. We hope you had as much fun as we did. And finally, we want to end our event with a word from a former young mom and current board vice president, Bridget Phillips.
When I think back on my time as a Young Moms program participant, a sense of deep connection to our local community is what first comes to mind. As I navigated being a teenage single parent, Young Moms was there for me in ways that no one else was. Program staff and volunteers were there to help me figure out ways to meet my needs, no matter whether they were simple or complex. Young Moms introduced me to the concept of a budget, which was completely foreign to me as I grew up in a family that kind of lived paycheck to paycheck. Young Moms volunteers helped me move into my first apartment and furnish it, which was a seemingly monumental task given that we had spent all of my savings on the first and last month's rent and security deposit. I will never forget the kindness, non-judgmental welcoming attitudes, and the genuine compassion that I received from everyone connected with Young Moms. This is truly life-changing work, and I know for a fact that it has had an immeasurable impact on my family. Now that I'm more than a decade out from my start with Young Moms, I know that the seeds they planted in my family's life have fully bloomed. I consider it one of the greatest privileges of my life to continue to work with Young Moms and affect the lives of other young women like me in my capacity now as a board vice president and volunteer.
Gracias, YoungMoms. Estoy muy agradecida por toda esta información que me han brindado durante todo este tiempo. Gracias, YoungMoms.
Ya no hay nada que decir y muchas gracias.
I love Young Moms. I really appreciate.
Y gracias la programa YoungMoms que nos están ayudando.
I can't wait to be a volunteer because I'm gonna almost graduate. Young Moms, thank you so much.
Y gracias a ellos me ayudaron mucho y gracias, solamente eso.
Me ayudaron con muchas cosas y la verdad no tengo con qué pagarles. Dios les va a pagar y la